Hi, Eric.
Hello.
So what do we got here?
So this is our good customer 74 Nova. It's kind of been in the background for a long time. He's not in a huge hurry to get it done, so we work on it kind of when we have time. And today we have time. So we just had the radiator record. I don't remember if Ferndale recorded it for us or if they just cleaned it out. But we got the original radiator professionally serviced, pulled it out of the car, took it to Ferndale Radiator, and they did whatever they did to it. I think they just cleaned it and painted it. And I pulled the block drains out just a little while ago and dumped all the old cruddy coolant out. You can see I replaced the radiator hoses, the water pump, and so now I'm putting the block drains back in. And let me think, I think I still have a heater hose to put on, I don't remember. I got new fan belts on it, but I'm pretty close to firing it up. And you know, we had this car running a couple weeks ago, but only for like, you know, I didn't want to run it long, only for a few seconds, just enough to prove that it ran, basically. But I still had to put the radiator in it and put the water pump in it, so there wasn't any coolant in it, so I didn't want to run it for long. But now, we're getting to the point where, you know, we can run it for a while. Cooling system is just about done. I got the gas tank out of it. So that's kind of the next step, is we're gonna get a new gas tank for it. The old one can probably be repaired, but they're so cheap for these cars, if I just get a new one. The sending unit, I need to check out a little bit. I'm at least gonna pop it in the ultrasonic cleaner. It looks like an aftermarket sending unit, so it's been replaced once, which is a little bit of a bummer. I always would rather rebuild the original one, but this car didn't come with it. I'm gonna have to replace this. The end, this is for the, you know, for the sending unit. Obviously, it's been repaired once already, so I think I can get that end on a short piece of wire and splice it in. I gotta do a little bit of research on that, see what's involved there. But today I'm just gonna try to run it off of just a gas tank, you know, and a hose off the side of the car, and check out a couple other things, make sure it's running okay, and make sure the charging system is working and stuff like that.
Well, while you lower it down, let me just get everyone caught up on this car. So this is a 1974 Chevy Nova base with a 350 V8 optional 2-barrel engine. It was owned, it belongs to or is owned by the wife of our accountant. It was her first car. She purchased it brand new in 1974, and it of course was the car that they spent their undergrad years in while they were starting their relationship, and this is the car that they raised their family in for the next 22 years. They took this car everywhere, and here in Michigan, as you know, 22 Michigan winters are not kind to a car of this age group, like they would be to any car that lives here in Metro Detroit. So, not only do they use it as the family car, you'll notice it also has a trailer hitch on the back because they used it to tow the family boat. And they've kept the car for sentimental reasons all this time, and after sitting for, what has it been now, over 20 years since he parked it?
I believe that's what he said.
So it's been parked since the early 2000s. And just this season, as we got our shop up and running and operational, and the owner, he became our accountant for Chase Classic Motors, and he pitched us the idea, by the way, while I'm doing your accounts and your taxes, how about you take a look at my wife's car? We've always meant to put it back on the road again, and this would seem to be the opportune time to do it. So that's what's happening. You've probably seen it in the background of several of our videos. But now, it's got the priority spot on the lift.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be, you know, I pushed it on the lift here. I'm hoping to be driving it off, but let's see. I mean, after we get the fuel system done, the next step is gonna be brakes. And then after that, drive around and see what else it needs. You know, like I say, I don't know yet if the charging system is working, and, you know, we might get it going and find out, you know, that it's leaking from somewhere else. Maybe it needs a pinion seal or something. So, you know, it's still kind of step at a time at this point.
And then eventually, we're going to bring in a specialist, a body and paint team, to find out what it's going to take to put this car back together again, give it a fresh look, fresh paint job, and make it look just like it did when the missus rolled it off the dealership lot in 1974. Of course, that was before they were married.
Yeah, it's pretty cool they kept it this long, isn't it?
It is a fun family story, and we want to do right by this family. The customer, he's a very good guy. He's been very helpful to us in getting this whole business side of our operation set up. He's an invaluable resource. The two best pieces of advice I got when you and I pledged to go into business and open our little workshop here came from one of our car show friends, and he said the best thing you can have on your team, other than an expert like Eric, of course, is a good lawyer and a good accountant. Well, we definitely found ourselves the right accountant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a car guy too.
He sure is.
Great. It's always much nicer when you can do business, even if it's not car business, with car people. When you're in the car business, like our accountant, like our editor for these videos you're watching and stuff like that. It's just, they understand the vision, and I think we all kind of share the passion too, it just makes the whole thing more fun.
Because car people are the best people to spend time with, recreating or doing business.
Mm-hmm.
We all seem to be on the same page. And pretty soon, we're going to be turning the page on this 1974 Chevrolet Nova.
I don't know why I'm wiping this off. I got muck all over the brand new fuel pump I put on it. I don't know, I'm being persnickety, I guess. So we're a long way from, having this car done, and I'm wiping crud off. I don't know, I don't like seeing crud on my new parts.
Well, I'm with you there. You put a lot of new parts on this stout 350 motor. So you got the new fuel pump, you put on the new water pump, which you also painted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if that was a waste of my time or not, because the rest of the engine needs paint also, but I don't know. That's what I would want done if it was my car, so that's why I did it.
And as I recall, you also rebuilt this twin jet.
Yeah, I rebuilt the carburetor on there. What the heck do they call it? I'm a bit tired. I'm drawing a blank. What is it? Dual jet. That's what they call it. Two jet.
The little brother of the quadrijet.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. I mean, GM also made a. No, that was the dual jet. There's a version of the quadrijet that they cut in half, and it's just the two front barrels, and I think they called that the dual jet. So this is the two jet. This has, doesn't share any parts, doesn't really have anything in common with the quadrijet. But honestly, it's probably a better carburetor than the dual jet. The dual jet is a bit of a compromise because it wasn't meant to be a 2-barrel, it was meant to be a 4, and they cut it in half, and so you drive a car with a dual jet and there's flat spots and stuff all over the place in it. I think these are actually better carburetors, but I don't think, they passed emissions as easily, and that's why they started making the dual jet. I'm rambling now. I'm not sure of any of that, to be perfectly honest.
But now that you got that done, you're also going to replace all the plug wires and the points, the condenser.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't want to replace the ignition wires. I think he told us that he did a tune-up on this car himself before he parked it.
But you did find a little complication here.
Yeah, these I think are 8mm. Yeah, they are. They're 8mm wires, and this car left the factory with 7mm wires. And so when he tried to push them into these factory looms, I don't know how well you can see it. It tore this wire. So yeah, these are a little bit smushed too. I don't know if they're torn, but they're definitely, yeah, they kind of are. So I mean, that damaged them. And there's no reason to put 8mm wires on a car that's, got a basically factory ignition system anyway.
And it's only pulling, what, maybe 150 horsepower?
Yeah, probably about that, I'm guessing. Out of a, 352 barrel from the beginning of the Malaise era. So they look cooler, I guess. But anyway, I ordered new ignition wires for it. This car will run with these for a while, but not, reliably. So we're not going to give it back to him with these wires on it.
but it's going to look a lot better when it's done. And pretty soon we'll catch up with you as soon as you turn it over, start it up again, and we'll see how it does with its first real test run with the cooling system all back together again.
Yeah, we get to run it for a few minutes this time because it's got a good cooling system. Before, it was, you know, it was like someone not actually coming back to life from being in a coma, but noticing that there's brain activity. This feels more like it coming back to life. So, because we can actually run it for a significant amount of time now.
Well, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, it'll be all right, I'm sure.
Sounds pretty good, Eric.
Yeah. It's running pretty nice for coming back awake after 20 years or however long it's been. Now, like I say, we had it running earlier, but only for a few seconds. I didn't want to run it for too long because we didn't have a cooling system in it. Now it's got a fresh radiator, fresh thermostat, all fresh hoses and fresh coolant, and a fresh water pump. So we can run it pretty much indefinitely now. Lots of smoke. That's all crud burning off the exhaust manifolds. I think the valve cover gaskets are a little leaky. And there was a lot of muck in the front of the engine that I tried to clean off before I put the water pump on. And, you know, that's burning off too. So it's a little stinky in here, but the car seems pretty happy. It's running well. Yeah, a lot of smoke in the air.
But considering this car's been asleep for 20 years, I think it sounds pretty nice.
It sounds amazing. I mean, I thought that the exhaust would be louder and stuff like that, because I mean, I don't know. The exhaust on this car doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look fresh either. So next step is to get a gas tank for it. I already ordered fuel lines for it from Inline Tube, so those are on the way. And then we can put the fuel system together and that'll be finished. And then after that's the brakes. The brakes might work. Honestly, I've never stepped on the brake pedal in this car.
Want to give it a shot?
Are you feeling lucky?
Let's roll the dice.
You know, the customer said he did the brakes just before he parked it, and you can kind of tell. You look at the back sides of the backing plates and the wheel cylinders look pretty fresh. They probably work. It's been stored inside this whole time. Generator lights on. Yeah, nope. It's going to the floor. I mean, that could be that maybe he didn't adjust the shoes when he put it together, but I'm not feeling lucky. I think we got a hydraulic problem. But anyway, since the generator light's on, and I meant to do this anyway, let's see if the alternator's charging. I'm only getting 7 volts. There we go. Must not have a very good connection, but still, 12.4. I don't know if you saw that. I think I'm fighting through a little bit of corrosion here, but yeah, there we go. 12.4. That's not charging. I don't remember off the top of my head how to... Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to have to consult the service information again and to figure out how to check and make sure the regulator is getting the juice it needs in order to do what it needs. But we're probably looking at having this alternator rebuilt. But no surprise there. I mean, it could be something as stupid as, you know, a little bit of corrosion on the commutator from it sitting, and it just, now that it's moving, it wiped out the brushes, or maybe the brushes just got to wear in again. But it's not charging right now.
Not too surprising in a car this old.
No. And nothing we can't fix. Maybe the bulb burned out. Well, there really isn't too much need to run it much longer. It's fairly warm now. I wanted to get it kind of hot before I change the oil anyway. It's about there by now. I can let it go a few more minutes. We're probably about where we're gonna get on this car for today.
How's the temperature gauge look?
It hasn't got one. It's only got an idiot light.
Okay, Eric. I think that's a successful test.
Yeah?
We'll pick this up again as soon as you're ready to make more progress on
Yeah.
the 74 Chevy Nova.
It is on a thermostat housing.
It's about normal.
Uh-huh.
How about the radiator? Not bad.
Yeah. Hit the bottom of the radiator. Hello. Oh. You're just in time, I guess.
Look who's here.
I recognize the smell.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. It's running, Anne-Marie. It's running.
I see, I hear.
That is so cool.
Oh,
It's feeling smooth.
yeah. I'm surprised at how smooth it is.
So this is our accountant, Jerry, and his wife, Anne-Marie. And this is the car that's been in their family almost 50 years.
Yes.
And it's a happy reunion to see this car woken up again after 20 long years of slumber.
Doesn't look like it.
No. I had a hard time getting a decent connection earlier. I got scraped through the rust a little bit. But it was only putting out 12.4.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yep. You're
Nice
all right.
charger.
You're all right.
It's back.
Cool. This is really awesome.
I guess you just have to get used to the idea.
You can't keep a good Chevy down.
I actually pulled the block drains out too and got the coolant out of the engine block too. The only thing that's a little, still maybe, I didn't replace any of the core plugs. I don't know if Chevy small blocks are prone to them
Not
rotting
as far
out.
as I know.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I didn't do anything with the heater core.
Right. Well, you got new hoses on. That's the important part.
And I'm sure Ross told you, we sent the
Got a brand
radiator out.
The radiator's been reconditioned. Right?
Yep, yeah, I think they recorded, didn't they? So.
How you doing, Eric?
Hey, not too bad. On this car, I'm just about to replace the points and condensers. They're working, but I don't think anyone knows how old they are. So, it's when they're like that, it gets to a point where you change it it's like changing oil almost. You do it as preventative. But while I was here, I was going to check the vacuum advance on the distributor. So I hooked up my little hand vacuum pump to the vacuum advance. And when I pump it up, you can see the points move. That's the vacuum advance pulling the ignition timing forward. And it seems to be holding too. I don't know how well you can see the gauge, but it's not leaking down. So I figured as long as I'm here and I'm getting ready to replace the points, I was just gonna real quick hook this up and check the vacuum advance, and it's working okay. And then I can show you a couple more times if you want. Here, I'll bleed off the pressure, pump it back up so you can see, it actually moves the plate that the points themselves are mounted to. And that's what advances the timing with the vacuum. And of course, that's not the only way that timing advances on these old-fashioned cars without electronic ignition. You can also kind of see these weights here and the springs that pull them in. So as this spins faster and faster with engine RPM, these weights will get pulled outwards by centrifugal force, and that will advance the rotor, which I took off. Normally it's bolted on right here, and that will also mechanically advance the ignition timing. So as the engine speeds up, you first get a vacuum signal from a ported vacuum signal from the carburetor to the vacuum advance, and that gives you your first advance. And as it spins faster and faster, you get your mechanical advance. So even though it doesn't look like it's in super great shape on this car, it is working. So For the time being, I'm just gonna do the points and gap them. I'm also replacing the ignition wires on this car. Unfortunately, they look like they're in good shape, but they're not. I was messing with this car yesterday and I noticed a tear in this ignition wire, which I'm sure it's because they're 8mm wires and someone put them on the car and tried to push them into the factory wiring looms here, and they're made for 7mm wires. So I got some AC Delco Professional ignition wires, 7mm, original for this car. They're not new old stock, they're new, and I'm gonna put those on.
Cool, thanks for the lesson. So this car has two methods of advancing its timing. Give you that better performance and fuel economy as you head down the road, then onto the highway.
Yeah, well, honestly, almost all cars that don't have electronic ignition have both a vacuum advance and a mechanical advance. So, it's just par for the course until they started putting computers in place of the points.
And was Chrysler one of the first that did the electronic ignition?
Not really the first. Earliest domestic I can think of, actually, I think was GM. They had it on the Corvettes and available as a option on some of their other cars back in like 60, at least as far back as 67, because I've got the factory service manual for that 67 Camaro we got back there, and it said it's available as an option. And you know, it's very possible the Europeans had it earlier than that. I'm not really sure. So yeah, but Chrysler had it starting in, I believe it was 71 or 72 on the Imperials, and then the year after that, it was available on everything.
And they really heavily promoted that.
Yeah. Yep, and I think they pitched it as being good for performance and fuel economy too. Honestly, it doesn't outperform a properly adjusted set of points, but it will last longer. You know, it just, the biggest benefit to it was it reduced maintenance.
Well, there's plenty more maintenance to be done on this 1974 Chevrolet Nova 350. Well, Eric, sounds like that Nova's ready for a test drive.
Yeah, we'll find out together. I bled the brakes. You know, the customer parked the car 20 years ago after doing a brake job and replacing a couple of wheel cylinders and a brake line, and he never bled it. And the car sat in his garage since then, 20 years ago. So I bled the brakes, replaced one wheel cylinder. The brakes are nowhere near done, but they seem to be holding pressure. It's running off of fuel in the brand new fuel tank, so we're not running it out of a hose in a container next to the car anymore. I know nothing about the transmission. We haven't tried to put it in gear yet, so we'll find out together. If it works, I'm gonna take it around the block or something.
Great. I'll open the door for you.
Yeah. It's not open.
No.
Let's check the fluid first. It seemed for a moment like it did want to move.
Yeah, I saw it. Might be low on fluid, eh?
Yeah. Hopefully that's all it is. Yeah. Oh yeah. She's low all right.
How's it feel?
master cylinder's bad.
Is it?
Yep. No surprise there. But it does have brakes-ish. Half of them. If I pump them, it kind of comes back for a little while. But I don't know, do you want to send the owner a picture of it going around the block?
Go
I'll
ahead.
just go slow. It lives.
Well, how's it feel?
Brakes are almost bad enough to be scary. You definitely want to be on them as quick as possible. Fuel gauge seems to be working, so that's good. It says it's got about 1/8 of a tank in it. I didn't put much gas in it, just enough. So we'll see if that's good. I wish this thing had a temperature gauge. It doesn't. It's just an idiot bike.
I'll shoot it with the gun.
Yeah.
See what it's doing.
But I barked the tires a little bit over there. I got it going fast enough that it went into second gear. So the transmission is showing up for work to some extent. Here we go. It lives, and I think it's happy to live.
That's great. Congratulations. I know the family will be very happy to hear it.
Yep. Yeah, we'll show them the video, and that's gonna be it for this car for a while. We got a lot more work to do on the brakes, and then, I mean, there's still fluids and leaks all over this car we're eventually gonna have to address, but it lives again.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. The 1974 Chevrolet 350 base Nova. It runs, it drives, it mostly stops. And it looks good. Well, now that little test drive is complete, Eric, looks like she's gushing transmission fluid pretty consistently there.
It's coming from one of these trans lines going up to the radiator. I haven't replaced the trans cooler lines yet because I got to pull the exhaust out of the way to do it. So I was going to get to it later.
And this car definitely needs new exhaust anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure. It needs, you know, like I said, we're nowhere near done with it. Oops, left that in there. I was using that to bump the engine over. I'll get that out. But let me try to tighten those up. Maybe that'll fix it. I'm surprised it was running as well as it was.
So what's the story, Eric?
Well, this car is doing much better.
This is a 1974 Chevrolet Nova.
Yeah, we're hoping this car is going back to its owner soon. We did a ton of work on it. You know, quick recap, it sat for about 20 years without really being driven. Although, you know, a couple things on it are newer than that. The tires are a lot newer than that. They're not new, but I don't know, what did we say they were, 10 or 11 years old or something like that? But I just finished working on the brakes, you know, just for the safety of the owner. You know, this car has always been a Michigan car. It's a little crusty. And so I replaced pretty much everything hydraulic on this braking system. New master cylinder, new brake, new wheel cylinders, new hoses. His shoes and drums, he actually did himself 20 years ago, but they're still fresh as daisies, so I really didn't do anything with those other than adjust them. But all of the hydraulics are new except for the distribution block right there, which I don't know if it's got a combination valve in it or anything. I think all it's got in it is just a switch to tell you that you've got a leak, and that's it. And those go bad so rarely that I'm very, very confident to leave it alone. But as you can see, new master cylinder, new lines. The lines came from Inline Tube, which is a place that does, you know, really great quality restoration parts not too far from here. I can very easily drive there from here. As a matter of fact, they're closer to my house than they are to the shop. They're almost walking distance from my house. So I got the lines from them. I also got all of the parking brake cables for this car from them. And I was surprised to find that they make a lot of other cool stuff too. They make windshield washer bottles. Well, I don't know if they make them, but you can buy them from them. And they're restoration correct. And a whole bunch of other just weird stuff random, very specific bolts and fan shrouds and all kinds of like the odd, weird little stuff that's just impossible to find when you're doing a restoration and you want to do it right. So even though they started out with brake lines, they do an awful lot of other stuff now that's just really, really cool and really, really correct if you want the correct car.
You told me the company was founded by three brothers who were GM collectors.
Yeah, and I've met one or two of them in person. One of them, James, is a friend of mine, Chris Carson, who we talk about all the time, our carburetor specialist and Oldsmobile enthusiast. And so yeah, James is the Oldsmobile enthusiast at Inline Tube. And the other two brothers, I forget their names, but one of them is into Pontiacs and the other one's into Buicks. So
Kind of leaving Chevy high and dry, but
yeah,
here we are.
Kinda.
You're able to get the parts you need for this.
Yeah, and the brake lines fit amazing. They're not perfect. You do have to tweak them a little bit, and also because they come in a box, some of the longer brake lines they have to bend over on themselves so that they'll fit in the box, but straightening them is no big deal. And it's still a heck of a lot easier than bending them myself. And they come to you, with, I forget, these coils of like spring type stuff that's on there. I forget what that's on there for, but it left the factory with that, and I can't do that easily, but you buy it from Inline Tube and there it is. So anyway, the only issue this car's got left, the customer wants us to replace the spare tire on it, because the spare tire is much older than the rest of the other tires on this car. As a matter of fact, it's a buy a supply. So we're gonna do that. And I've had a couple of issues with the choke. This car runs amazing when it's fully warmed up, but as it's warming up, it ain't quite right. So I'm playing with the choke a little bit to try to get that good. And then after that, I think it's ready to go.
I can't wait to take it for a test drive.
Yeah, I think you should. It may only be a 352 barrel, but this car's got an awful lot of spunk. I don't know what rear end ratio's in it or anything, but it's got plenty of torque. I broke the tires loose a couple of times, not meaning to, on the test drive. And I don't think I was anywhere near even half throttle. You just give it a little whoop and away it goes.
That good old Chevy 350 making gobs of torque.
Yeah.
Well, that's great news, Eric. I know you were also underneath this car. It looks like you had to replace pretty much all the brake lines to all the manual drums.
Yeah, I don't know if I needed to replace them all, but I wanted to just for safety's sake. When it comes to brakes and old, who knows what fluid being in them and who knows what kind of rust and all that sort of thing, I just didn't want to roll the dice at all. So everything hydraulic on this car is new.
Does this car have power assist?
Brakes, no. It's got power steering, but does not have power assist brakes. And to be honest, even though I'm confident that it's working properly, the brakes are still not great. It does have four-wheel drum brakes on it. I suspect some good old-fashioned asbestos linings would work much better. I've learned from experience that the cars that were engineered to have asbestos brake linings really perform much better with the asbestos. I went through that with my Checker up there. It had asbestos linings on it when I bought it. I went through the hydraulic system just like I did with this car, and they were working great. That now, just so you know, the Checker does have vacuum assist brakes, but it's four-wheel drum. But it stopped fine. You pushed on the brake pedal. It never moved very much in the Checker. It had very little movement to it, but it stopped perfectly fine, exactly the way you'd expect it to. And then I noticed that the shoes are starting to kind of crack and come apart a little bit, and I didn't want them going to metal on metal and ruining the drums, because I don't know where I'm ever going to find drums for a 65 Checker again. So I put new shoes on it, new ones, just from, a local place. And all of a sudden the brakes were terrible. I had to stand on the brake pedal to get the car to stop. So by talking to other friends of mine who have, kind of been there, done that with old cars already, I kind of find out that it probably needed the asbestos linings. So I found a guy out of New York that had, not, Checker brand, but there's something like Wagner or something, but old asbestos linings, made 30 years ago or more. And I bought them and I put them on and the car stopped amazing again.
And what makes the asbestos lining so much more effective?
It's the coefficient of friction. You know, the modern organic and ceramic materials just don't have the coefficient of friction that the asbestos does.
They just don't grab the drum as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So that way you can tell that this car does not have vacuum assist brakes because
Yeah, there's no booster there.
only this master.
And like I said, you gotta push the brakes harder than I want to get this car to stop. But I don't think it's bad. If your grandmother was driving this car, I think she could still stop it. Maybe if it had asbestos linings on it, it'd be better. Especially since it's a light car. This is a unibody car. My Checker is a full frame car. It's bigger than this car. The Checker needs the vacuum assist more than this car does.
These little Novas were hopped up back in the day by a lot of street racers, obviously because they were light and they were fast and they were easy to modify.
Oh yeah, look at that engine compartment. You can still put there still looks like there's room in there for a big block to me, but even with just the 350, this car really scoots.
Fantastic. I can't wait to take it for a drive.
Yeah.
So you're just going to keep on tweaking that choke?
I'm gonna give it a little bit more choke. It's way better, but it's not like I think it should be.
Great, Eric. Well, let's catch up with you once you finish that, and then we'll get this 1974 Chevy Nova out on the road and see how it does. Let's see how well it drives and how safe it stops.
Alrighty.
Well, Eric, it's finally time.
Yeah, this car's going home. It's been a long time semi-permanent resident. Technically, I think this was our first customer, really, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. This car's been with us for over 6 months since before we officially opened this year.
So, but it's working great. It's running great. The brakes are working great. It's time for it to go back to its owners. And if I understand it right, the car cosmetically still needs a lot of work.
It is a Michigan car.
Yeah, but it works great, and everything's safe on it. Like I said in the other video, I replaced basically everything hydraulic on the braking system in this car. So if I understand it correctly, I think the owners are gonna have a little fun with it next year, drive it around a little bit, and then put some money into the body, I think.
That's the plan. I know he also wants to tweak the engine a little bit, modify the exhaust.
Oh, that's a toe strap.
This is the Motor City after all, and it is a quick, fun little car, so.
Yeah, it's, like we said before, it's surprisingly fast the way it is with the 2-barrel.
It is.
Did you ask him what axle ratio is in it?
No, I forgot. We did go for a test drive, and he said it's just like he remembers. And I asked him if it was always this quick, and he said, oh yeah, it always was quick off the line. It's a light little car, and that 350 makes good power. But it is an important day.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll miss this car a little bit, but we're on to other things. God knows we got lots of cars to work on. So it'll be nice to have the room as much as this car is going away.
Absolutely. The little green machine, the 1974 Chevrolet Nova base. The 350 2-barrel V8. Gobs of torque. I understand why they bought this car to tow a boat. It's definitely got the power off the line. It's a torquey little beast.
Yeah, I broke it loose a couple times without meaning to.
Yeah, it barks the tires without a whole lot of effort. Although I will say it does make me appreciate the benefits of having vacuum assisted power brakes.
Yeah, the brake pedal is kind of hard. And you do have to step on it kind of hard to get the car to stop. Like I said, it's not scary. It's not like, oh my gosh, it's not going to stop.
No, it definitely stops.
Yeah, you can lock them up.
Easily.
But yeah, if you're getting to our age, middle age, you don't really want to push the brake pedal that hard.
Not all the time. So, fortunately, the owner and his wife, they live very close by. So we're going to load this up before it gets too dark and jump on over there to their subdivision, and the next clip we'll see will be us unloading it in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
and it finding its way back into the garage after all these years.
I'm gonna put the keys for the beast back before I lose them, and then I guess
We'll hit the
we're
road.
going.
Okay, so we get back, and
All right.
we'll fire up the truck and make our way over to the customer's house and deliver that 74 Nova. Nova deposit, Nova return. That's what we're calling this episode. And it's finally time for the little Nova to be returned. That's a heck of an improvement for a car that did not run when it came in and couldn't even be loaded without the come along.
This house? That looks like it.
Yeah, that's it.
Should I do a burnout in his driveway?
That'll get his attention.
Yeah. I'll go knock on the door. Yeah.
Hi, buddy. Another successful story. Our first story. One of the first here at Chase Classic Motors. I know we'll see this car again. The owner, Jerry's our accountant, and he has some pretty substantial plans for this car. He wants to make it look factory fresh again, body and paint, mechanicals, some performance upgrades. He's quite a traditional gearhead. Jerry owned several muscle cars in his youth, and although this is his wife's first car, I know they're excited to dress it up and start fitting in with the crowd of car collectors here in the metro area. And thanks to Eric's good work, this car runs great, sounds great.